All right, class. So next week we're focusing on patterns of organization, and for homework on Monday, you need to make sure that you have Chapter 5 notes, which is on patterns of organization. Today's lesson is focused on that. So just to better prepare you for Monday's activity, it's important that you do take notes on a couple of things, and I will note that to you during the presentation. First things first, again, we're focusing on patterns, and patterns will help you to do the following. It will help you with comprehension and recalling information, especially when you are, studying for an exam. It would also help you in terms of your writing. So for Comp 1 and Comp 2, you will have to organize your text accordingly based on whatever your professor indicates for either cause and effect, comparison and contrast, and so on. So it is important that you know what these patterns are, okay? So take heed to this lesson. I also want to note that for patterns, you need to have this type of mentality in terms of making sure that you're on the right track of grasping this concept, okay? So first and foremost, it's important that for patterns, you understand the definition, the meaning of that particular pattern, also understanding the transitional words, phrases, the key words that would signal that particular pattern, okay? And then you have the relationship between sentences or within the sentence or the overall pattern of organization. And we're going to have a chance to learn about that today. So here's an example, okay? And this is focusing mainly on the relationship within a sentence, okay? And be mindful of the fact that whenever you're writing, you're indicating, showing some form of pattern, no matter what, okay? Now, in order to tackle on this question, in this case, to make sure that you understand what patterns entails, the first thing you need to focus on is what the author is trying to say. And you don't have to refer to the paragraph in this particular type of question format for your final exam or midterm. All you're doing is focusing on the sentence within that question. So the sentence states, research shows that men communicate with women in the same way they do with other men, okay? So to me, that's saying, you know what, men pretty much talk the same way as women, all right? And that's more or less what the author is trying to say, okay? Then I would use process of elimination. So A, B, C, or D. For me, A, contrast means different, okay? You're looking at differences. However, B, you're focusing on cause and effect, which is the reason versus the outcome. So cause is the reason why it happens, and effect is what happened, the outcome. C, comparison, is based on similarities, okay? Then you have D, clarification, okay? So we talked about this in class already in terms of clarifying, trying to expand on what the author is trying to point out as the subject. All right. Then our final step would be identifying signal words. So in this case, are there any signal words that connects to A, B, C, or D? Yes. You should have noted to yourself that C, comparison, is the answer. If you look here, okay, C, comparison, has a signal word, same, within that sentence, okay? So that is the final step. Do not go ahead and immediately look for keywords before going through this process, because there will be multiple sentences that have a combination of such, okay? And here's an example as well. So if you look at the paragraph above, and the last sentence in that paragraph, it says women, too, communicate as they do not only with men, but also with other women. Can you note key words or signal words that applies to the transitions or the patterns that you have seen in Chapter 5? Yes, so we have too, T-O-O, but, also. To and also are addition patterns, but is a contrast. So if you do not take the time to focus on what the sentence is saying, then it will hinder you from answering the question correctly. So again, Keep in mind that patterns will be used in Comp 1 and Comp 2. Okay, so it's important that you understand what they entail. And again, it will help you with comprehension and recalling details, especially for a test. Finding patterns, again, will help you understand with, what you're reading, okay, and what you have read. So if you had taken the time to memorize these words, right, take about 30 seconds, okay, look at all the numbers, and I'm going to go back a little bit. What numbers from those two columns, okay, did you remember the most? Right. So the even numbers are the ones that you would remember the most. Why? Why is that? Well, because, again, there's a pattern. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so forth. The pattern goes by twos. So it'll help you with memorization. So here are 4 key strategies that will help you to understand, identify the overall pattern for a passage or within a sentence. And again, you will be emulating this for your essays. Number 1, identify the main point, like we just did. Number 2, use process of elimination. A, B, C, or D, or in your mind, all the different patterns that comes to mind based on the example. 3, look for transitional or keywords. And if you have more than one sentence, then you must use the second sentence to help you identify the relationship to the first. So with that being said, this slide is what I want you to write down because it is not noted in your textbook. Please take the time to write this down. If you do not have this written down, I will be able to know that you have not watched my video. Okay? So for those of you that did watch the video, you'll be able to know that this will be a part of our surprise quiz. All right, so let's practice again. How do you recognize the overall pattern, okay? No matter what, you're going to use these steps for the most part. Unless you have only a sentence or 2 sentences that you're focusing on, then you would have the 4th point that we mentioned earlier. So let's read this together. Some psychologists have found that almost everyone gossips, male or female, young or old, blue collar or professional. Humans love to talk about one another. All too often, such gossip is viewed as a frivolous waste of time. However, it actually serves several important functions in the human community. For one thing, gossip is a form of networking. Talking with our friends and coworkers about each other is our most effective means of keeping track of the ever-changing social dynamic. It tells us who is in, who is out, and who can help us climb the social or professional ladder. A second function of gossip is the building of influence. When we engage in gossip, we are able to shape people's opinions of ourselves. We tell stories that show ourselves in a good light, wise, compassionate, insightful, clever. A final and very powerful function of gossip is the creating of social alliances. There are few quicker ways to form a bond with another person than to share private information with him or her. To talk about a third party, especially in a critical way, creates a bond with our listener and gives a feeling of shared what? Superiority. Take the time now. I would stop the film if I was you. Use the process that has been given. Identify the main idea in that sentence or come up with your own main idea. Use process of elimination. And then identify the keywords. Okay. So first and foremost, you should have thought about the following or identified the following in this passage. The third sentence, more or less, or fourth sentence rather, states the main idea. However, it actually serves several important functions in the human community. And notice how they're providing you the function